say more than half the sponsors of Pride, and there are big marches taking place in London. I'm not quite sure what extra rights they want, but it's happening, and the flags are everywhere, all over most commercial buildings, but over half the sponsors have links to countries around the world in which imprisonment, even up to a death penalty for homosexuality, exists. And they're big names. PlayStation, Netflix, United Airlines, Coca-Cola, Openreach, and so on and so forth. And I wonder, Peter Tatchell, who's been a great campaigner on these issues for many, many decades, I mean, this is just complete rank hypocrisy, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, Pride does need sponsorship because it's a huge event to put on, but it needs to be selective about which sponsors it accepts. And it's outrageous that 11 out of the 17 major corporates sponsoring Pride on Saturday in London are investing in countries where not only LGBT plus people are abused, but also women, workers, ethnic minorities. It's a huge contradiction, and I think it just fuels the idea that these corporates are sponsoring Pride because they see it as a great marketing and PR opportunity. And their principles are rather dodgy.
Yeah, no, I think they are. And I mean, in Uganda, the law has changed. Aggravated homosexuality, they brought the death penalty back for it there. Saudi Arabia, elsewhere, I mean, you know, the punishments for this are very, very severe indeed. Does anybody ever call these people out?
Yes, some of us do, but we get overruled.
But you're here on GB News, the home of free speech, so you can.
Yeah. But, you know, the time and time again, the Pride organisers say, well, we need sponsorship, that no company is perfectly clean. Without sponsorship, we won't be able to put on this mega event, which attracts well over 1 million people on this Saturday. So I understand that reasoning, but we have to be more selective. I'd prefer a scaled-down event as long as we made sure the sponsors were clean and honourable. And I say this not just from an LGBT plus point of view, but for the same issues about freedom of speech, the right to strike and protest, you know, all those fundamental freedoms that we cherish. Lots of these countries are investing in countries where those rights do not exist. And we need to say, you know, if you support Pride, you have to stand up for human rights, not just in this country, but everywhere that you operate.
Which they clearly do not. Broader point. What is this Pride weekend all about? What's it all about, Peter? Why? I mean, why is it necessary? I mean, there are things that you campaigned for a very long time ago. You've had extraordinary changes in the law, in social attitudes. I mean, you pretty much achieved every goal you set out to achieve all those years ago. Why do we need Pride?
Well, the latest research shows that 1/3 of all LGBT plus people in this country have been victims of homophobic, biphobic or transphobic hate crime. Just the other day, at my local bus stop, I was abused and threatened, violently threatened by 2 passers-by. That was my experience, and it's the experience of nearly all my friends. In our schools, nearly half of all pupils who are LGBT plus are bullied because of their sexuality. Now, sometimes it's just teasing and name-calling, but sometimes it's threats, menaces, and physical violence. So, of course, we have to keep battling. And, of course, you know that the government promised to ban conversion therapy, the attempt to change someone's sexuality or gender identity, 5 years ago. And we're still waiting. And this is very, very abusive. You know, the people who are victims of conversion therapy are often vulnerable people who are going through great emotional distress, and they're pressured by their families or church to undergo these abusive treatments.
But equally, some of the goings-on at the Tavistock Clinic have been pretty abhorrent too.
Well, that's a separate issue, but
it is related, isn't it?
Well, no, because
I think it is.
This is about pressuring people to change who they are based on the assumption that being LGBT is flawed, shameful, imperfect, and needs to be changed. So it's very, very different. But another issue, we do have in this...
but hang on, Tavistock is about organisations encouraging people to change their gender, and that's often a terrible life mistake for people.
Well, if you look at the research, the vast majority, more than 98% of trans people who've been through the process of transitioning have no regrets. They say they're happier, they're mentally healthier, physically healthier. There's less than 1% who express regrets. And I feel for those people. I'm sorry for those people, but it's a very tiny proportion.
And if they're very young, I mean, that's the point I'm making. Isn't the truth of it? Mm-hmm. You know, we can all, I mean, goodness knows, I know about discrimination more than almost anybody, but isn't the truth of it that we can beat ourselves up if we want to, but actually, this is pretty much one of the most tolerant places in the world to live?
Yeah, we have made huge gains for the LGBT plus community, and I want to thank everyone, not just LGBT plus people, but our straight friends and allies. Thank you so much for standing up for equality and against discrimination, but still work with us this extra mile, and of course, support the global struggle, because there are still 66 countries that criminalise same-sex relations.
You've been out and campaigned all over the world. Is this not a great country to live in?
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good.
But we can always do better.
Okay,
and
fine.
not just better for LGBTs. We've got a cost of living crisis where millions of people are suffering, and I feel for them.
There are many, many issues.
Yeah.
Satchel, as ever, thank you for coming on the programme.